This is Eric Stone, and this is the intro video, I guess you would say, to my new YouTube page. So subscribe to it. It's Aspiring Music Writer. And I've got to figure out how to get the picture up. A picture, I just got default pictures. Anyways, this is the intro of what I'm wanting to do. I've had a few Facebook pages of my music, my obsession with music, and it's just like, I think YouTube is going to be a broader horizon for everybody to, that likes music. I'm going to critique music, album reviews, concert reviews, even talk about my favorite artists, influences and influenced me. I've written a song and worked on another, hopefully one day getting them copyrighted and show them to people on Facebook. But I always have loved music. I mean, it's always, ever since I can remember, I've had a love for it. I can remember my mama telling me that when I was just a baby, bouncing up and down to Mustang Sally and stuff like that, I just love music. But it really didn't start hitting around till I was probably 8, 9 years old. And I had a certain uncle that would listen to 70s rock and stuff like that, and that's how I really started. I know more about 70s rock and late 60s more than I do the stuff that what was around when I was growing up. When I was 8, 9 years old, I was listening to people like Alice Cooper, Cream, Leonard Skinner, Eagles, AC/DC, Led Zeppelin, and a whole, just stuff like that. Late 60s, early 70s stuff, what they call classic rock nowadays. But then when I got to be about 12 or 13, my sister was getting into the stuff of today, which would have been the mid-90s. Stuff like NSYNC, Backstreet Boys, Avril Lavigne, Nickelback, and part of the biggest first influences I ever had was Creed, because first time I really paid attention to the lyrics, because I was not a popular teenager, and it just helped me get through some hard times. But even till this day, I love their music, and I've read Scott Stapp's biography. It's one of the best. He's a Christian. I'm a Christian. But and he's had his faults, and me too, and just but it helped me get through some hard times. But I listened to like Creed, Avril Lavigne, Nickelback, not AC/DC, but 98 Degrees, stuff like that. All the pop stuff. I really didn't listen to a lot of what they called country, unless it was 90s country, like early 90s, but what's weird is all the stuff that I listened to country back then is more pop now, like Toby Keith, Brooks and Dunn, all that stuff that really didn't, they were traditional at first, they just kind of went to the, not pop, but whatever you call it nowadays, because Justin Towns Earl said once, when Hank Williams was the biggest pop star of his time, and now that pop music's gotten so popular, country music just followed it down the drain, followed it down, and I believe that too, because there's not really that many true country artists that are playing on mainstream radio anymore. Like Jamie Johnson, Cody Jinks, Jason Bourne and the Stragglers, just to name a few, but really like Mark Chestnut. I didn't listen to a lot of Mark Chestnut, but I like him now because I consider him like honky tonk. Rick Trevino, I consider him honky tonk, but he hadn't come out with anything new, which I think he's happy with. He just tours and does what he likes, you know. But most of the people that I listened to in the early '90s, mid '90s country style kind of went to the wayside of rock or whatever they call it nowadays. And then they just started putting hip hop and country. I'm like, no, thank you. I like both, but do not mix them. In my opinion, that's just me. Because rap and country are two totally different things. I mean, totally different things. But also, when I was about, probably 14, 15, I kind of started getting in like the Hank Jr., classic country, Willie Nelson, Waylon Jennings, Merle Haggard, and stuff like that. It wasn't until a buddy of mine introduced me to a band called Cross Canadian Ragged. And that pretty much changed my platform of what I loved about music. It was the first band I really listened to the lyrics and like really became obsessed with. I hated them at first because you had to really listen to the lyrics. It wasn't real, some of the songs weren't that catchy. You know, like these pop songs are, you know, got the really catchy choruses and all that stuff. But first song I ever heard by Cross Canadian Ragweed was a song called 17. I was about 17 years old. And it's about just growing up in a small town and everybody knows your name, you're gonna get in trouble, you know, just and trying to get out of that small town. And then you, I guess, come back and, you know, you're always gonna be 17 in your hometown. And that's really what really started with the music for me, with the lyrics, because Cody Canada is probably my biggest influence ever. And Cross Canadian Ragweed, you know, which was Southern rock, but also what they called red dirt, which is Oklahoma, Texas, Arkansas, and now it's a little bit everywhere, I think, around the world, but it started in Kansas, Texas, Oklahoma, and Arkansas, you know. I've even seen some really good red dirt local bands right here in Magazine, Arkansas, or, you know, Logan County area. But anyways, it's just like, I love the lyrics because after studying them for a while, they were not in it for the money or the fame. They just did it because they wanted to be relatable to their, you know, lyrics relate and help people out or whatever. You know, but I mean, it's still my favorite band, one of my favorite lyricists. You know, then it got me into like people like Bob Dylan, Willie Nelson, which I think are the two best, probably, songwriters in American history ever. But also like Steve Earle, Robert Earl Keen, Jason Boland, all them, you know, all them. And it was just thing that got me where I started really getting an obsession of music, and especially what they call red dirt or Texas country, because you got Texas country, which is like Randy Rogers and Kevin Fowler, and, you know, I guess mainly in Texas. And you got the red dirt, which is like Mickey and the Motor Cars, Reckless Kelly, Cross Canadian Ragweed, you know, and stuff like that, you know, which put a couple different music styles into one, you know, because like Ragweed is, you know, Southern rock, a little bit of folk, not much, but a little bit maybe, and then you had like Jason Boland, which was straight up honky tonk, and then you had like Randy Rogers, which was like, and Wade Bowen, which was like kind of mainstream, but still traditional in their own way. You know, some songs could be traditional, but one thing I've always loved about the red dirt scene is they're in it to help people out. You know, they're not in it just to make that $1 million single or whatever you call it. You know, I don't know how much they make, but I know it's not near what like people like Tim McGraw or any of them make. You know, or you know Sam Hunt or any of them. You know, not dissing them, just, you know, they just like to play music. You know, but you know, and also, you know, and then another big influence besides Cross Canadian Ragweed and the Red Dirt was Gram Parsons. I was introduced to Gram Parsons by the same guy that introduced me to Red Dirt music. Gram Parsons is what they call the father of country rock, and he hated that title. He loved to call it cosmic American music. Before the Eagles, before everybody started putting country and rock together, he was the first. He was the first. He didn't think it as two different genres. He thought it as a genre on its own, But not only did he mix country and rock together, he mixed blues, gospel, soul. He was more influenced by, at the beginning, at black musicians, African American musicians, and music. And then later on he got into George Jones and Merle Haggard and stuff like that. And his, and then he had, where he infused country and rock together. That's just what made him. He never had any big albums that sold a lot, but he influenced a lot of people, up from Reckless Kelly and Dwight Yoakam to, even the Rolling Stones. Him and Keith Richards are very good buddies. And I've also done a little bit of research on that. He might even have sung backup harmonies on Exile on Main Street. I'm not for sure though. I hadn't done that much studying, but I've read that somewhere. Now if that's true, I don't know. But he paved the way. I mean, a lot of people don't know who he is, but he paved the way for a lot of the music that happens today, especially like Steve Earle. There wouldn't be a Gram Parsons if it weren't for Steve Earle. And even Willie Nelson, I think, might have been influenced by him. Because, although Willie Nelson is another great artist, by the way, seen him 3 times, but Willie Nelson is the guy that got the hippies and the rednecks to come together and to love music, whether they were, a rock person or a hippie. He just had that effect of, let's bring all this good music together and don't worry about our differences. Let's just, drink and have fun and smoke pot or whatever they did back in those days, But, and that's kind of where my mind starts as songwriters, is, especially that and Chris Knight. He is a damn good songwriter. Chris Knight, I'd love to write like him, but good luck, Chris Knight is what I call, he writes simple lyrics, but on a genius level. They're so simple, and there's not a lot of thought process into the song, but there is. You have to listen to it. So if you don't know who Gram Parsons is, Chris Knight, or Crosby and Ragweed, Jason Bowen, Wade Bowen, Randy Rogers Band, any of that, go look them up. Gram Parsons died from a tequila and heroin overdose at the age of 26, but his music is still being influenced today. And this is, like I said, just a little short intro video of my music page where I'll be doing influences. I think I'm going to do a deal called Influence, where I'll take just one certain artist and talk about how they've influenced me and this and that, and then album reviews and the concert reviews I went to. Recently, a couple days ago, I just went and seen Cody Cannon and The Departed, Shooter Jennings, which is William Jennings' son, Mark Chesnutt. One of the best concerts I've been to. Somewhat. Mark Chesnutt, I don't think it was him, as more of the music was overpowering his singing, but I'll get into that later, because I'm going to do a concert review on that on my next video. But this is Eric Stone, aspiring music writer. Go check it out. Thanks.